As the whole world is now aware, the whole situation in Egypt has exploded and there's been a definite regime change. The result of the 48-hour warning that was given to Morsi has expired. He has been removed from power and has been replaced by a new man. Now, the new guy is Adli Mansour, and that's his chosen replacement. Now, initially, the pro-reform leader Mohammed El-Bardi was named as the interim prime minister, but then they kind of backtracked and said, no, Mansour is the president now. So there was a little bit of a confusion there. They're saying that there's some kind of discussion about what's going on behind the scenes. Like, they're discussing who's going to be taking over and like what they're going to do with the government. So for a moment there, it was really unclear who the actual president of Egypt was going to be. Now, Mansour's administration is already starting to flex its muscle. It's been going around trying to take down everything it is that Morsi created. Some of his people have been arrested. The guy's intelligence minister has been fired. The chief presidential palace's chief of staff. Prosecutors, meanwhile, have ordered to be detained 4 stewards of Morsi's Muslim Brotherhood to be held for 15 days, pending an investigation into the shooting deaths of 8 protesters last week. So at least now that he has taken over, he's jumped on board and he's going to get things done. He's looking into crimes that, at least on the steward level, have committed against the people of Egypt. Now, there has been no reports of major violence inside of Cairo. Pro and anti people have been relatively quiet in that area. However, unfortunately, in the rest of the country, it's a little bit of a different story. Clashes were reported, fierce clashes, in the port city of Alexandria, where thousands of people from both sides fought with automatic rifles, fire bombs, and clubs. So there is still violence in the streets of Egypt. However, not in Cairo. The military seems to have things locked down very well. Now, Morsi was a U.S. trained engineer, and he was widely accused of monopolizing power for the Muslim Brotherhood, which he was, and it was definitely a sign that the country of Egypt was going to start going in a religious fundamentalist direction, which was completely rejected by the Egyptian people. They did not want a religious fundamentalist government. There were, however, Muslim Brotherhood people that did take to the streets and did fight in order to keep that kind of Islamic republic that they would have wanted. However, due to the way things turned out, I'm not saying this is a revolution, because it's not. It's a military coup. At least it's not going to be an Islamic fundamentalist one, which is really good. I mean, we don't need any more religious governments in the world. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood made all kinds of claims, like some kind of democratic reform. They promised a bunch of economic reforms as well, and a lot of the stuff they didn't put through, and some of the stuff they tried to put through, the public didn't actually really like. Now, this guy Mansour is 67 years old, and he was a Chief Justice of the country's Supreme Constitutional Court, and he was installed by the interim military leader. And the thing is, this guy, people don't really know him. From the world stage, like the international community, they don't really know what to make of this guy. He hasn't really gone out on the side of one particular group or another. Like, he hasn't shown that he's pro-imperialist or anti-imperialist. He's a pretty big unknown, so we don't know what's going to happen. But we can always have our suspicions, considering that he came in through a military coup. But we can also take a second look on the fact that he was not their first choice. In fact, they wanted one of their own guys, and he may end up being replaced later on. So that's something we do have to understand. This guy is a big unknown factor at this time, so we do have to keep our eyes on it. Now, what's happened here it's what was completely predictable. There were a ton of social contradictions that came up, stressors that appeared in the society as a result of the religious fundamentalist government trying to take over. And of course, during this kind of upheaval, there's so much going on. Factions fighting each other, and not to mention all the violence absolutely in the street, and the tensions that this new government was creating with the rest of the country. It was bound to break out into some kind of qualitative change. The only question was, what kind of qualitative change was it? In this case, it was the form of the military stepping in. Now, it remains to be seen exactly what this guy is going to do. We do know this. Keep in mind that revolution is not an event. It's a process. And this story is long. This is very far from over.